Okay, here we are back with the second part of this characteristics of relations and functions. And it was just getting a little long, so I wanted to break that video up. Okay. All right, here we go with this. It says provide information about the relations graphed below. This may be a little bit better since you're working on your own screen here. Look at letter A. What do you notice? There are line segments there. I see some colored in circles and an open circle. I see some increasing and decreasing. What do you see in that graph? Take a minute and just look at it. We got a higher point, a lower point. We got a furthest left, a furthest right. Okay, let's analyze this one. It says first, identify the domain. Domain means the x values. Okay, x values mean how far left and how far right. Okay, so if we look at this one, it helps often if you will label these points. So that point that's furthest to the left, the one with the open circle, is -2, 0. Okay, and this one is 1, 2, 0, 3. And this one over here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 0. And this one down here at the bottom is 2, -1, 2, 3, 4. That's just labeling the points. Okay. Now, the domain are the x values, so we want to look at the furthest to the left and the furthest to the right. So what is the furthest x value to the right? It is -2. What is the furthest x value to the left? It's +4. So one way we can write this domain is like this. -2 less than x less than or equal to 4. That means all the x values are between -2 and 4. Why do you think there's a difference in the symbol there? One is just less than, one is less than or equal to. That has to do with the circles. If it's an open circle, you're going to do less than or greater than. If it's a closed in circle, less than or equal to, greater than or equal to. Okay. This is called this is called inequality notation. Okay, inequality notation. It has the inequality symbols. You put the letter in the middle. So this was domain, so we put an x in the middle. You would read it -2 is less than x is less than or equal to 4. What it means is all of the x values or the domain of this function is between -2 and +4. All the x values are between -2. -2 is not included. We know that because of the open circle. And +4 is included. We know that because of the closed-in circle. All right, let's do the range. Range, now we're looking at the y value. So we want the lowest point, the lowest y value, to the highest y value. Move my hands down so you can see. Lowest to highest. Okay, so what is the lowest y value? -4. Highest y value is 3. What kind of circles do we have with those 2 points? They're closed in, so that means they count. They're included. So the range is going to be -4 less than or equal to y less than or equal to 3. Okay, that is inequality notation. We're going to learn inequality notation and interval notation and set notation. Today we're working with inequality. Okay. Is this relation also a function? Next question. Is the relation also a function? When you look back at that graph, how do we know? We can look at, do the x's repeat? There's no way to list every single point. We can do the vertical line test. Is there anywhere on that graph that we could draw a vertical line and it would cross more than once? Anywhere we draw a vertical line, it's only going to cross once. Vertical line, cross once. vertical line, cross once, vertical line, cross once. There's nowhere on there it could cross twice. So yes, it's a function. And Mr. Dell would always ask you, how do you know? And you could say, passes the vertical line test, or you could say the x's don't repeat. And I hope I just didn't turn my microphone off. Okay, next. Continuous or discrete. If the points are connected, it's continuous. Okay. The points are connected, so it's continuous. It doesn't matter, it doesn't have arrows. Sometimes my students want to say this one's discrete because it doesn't have arrows, but it's continuous in between those 2 points. We would call that continuous over the domain. It's continuous between those 2 points because all the fractions and decimals are included. One of your definitions for continuous said an infinite number of points. There is no way that you could count the number of points between those 2 circles. There's no way you could count every single point because every tiny decimal, every tiny fraction will be included. Okay. Next one says, on what interval is it increasing? Increasing means it's going up. Okay. So we're looking at that first interval, that first part of the graph is going up. If we look from left to right, just like we read, we use the x values. So between -2 and 0. That's this interval right here between -2 and 0. I got those numbers from these x values. And then right here, it's increasing between 2 and 4. When you describe intervals of increase and decrease, you don't put the lines under the symbols because it starts increasing and it stops increasing. It doesn't include that number. The last question says, on what interval is it decreasing? I'm not going to try to move this because I have to erase everything. I'm just going to change color. On what interval is it decreasing? Where does it start decreasing? At 0. Where does it stop decreasing? At 2. That's a decrease. Okay. Looks like a mess. We used inequality notation. We talked about the circles and what they mean. We talked about domain and range. Is it a function? How do you know? Is it continuous or discrete? How do you know? All right, let's do the other side. I'm going to erase all of this so it doesn't look so cluttered. Okay, on the other side, what's different about this graph? This graph has an endpoint and it continues to the right. Okay, has an endpoint and it continues to the right. It doesn't have an arrow on both ends. We can label that one point. What is that one point where the endpoint is? Is 0, 0. Identify the domain. How far left does it go? It goes to 0. How far right does it go? It keeps going, right? How do we know that it keeps going to the right? Because of the arrow. Domain is x is greater than or equal to 0. We know it's or equal to because the circle is colored in. Identify the range. What's the lowest y value? 0. How far How far up does it go? We don't know because there's an arrow. Y is greater than or equal to 0. Is this a function? Anywhere we would draw a vertical line on this graph, it's only going to cross once. So yes, it is a function. If Mr. Riddell asked you why, you would say it passes the vertical line test. VLT for vertical line test. Is it continuous or discrete? It's only discrete if they're individual points and they're not connected, but this endpoint and everything past it are connected. That is continuous. If we wanted to be very technically correct, you would say continuous over the domain because it's continuous between 0, 0 and infinity. On what interval is it increasing? It's increasing where x is greater than or equal to 0. The last question that's kind of hidden on the screen says, where is it decreasing? It's not. There's no interval in that graph that's decreasing. Okay. I feel funny because I can't ask you if you have questions. If you have questions, please email me and I will answer them for you. Okay. We're going to stop right there for now.